Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at property address 22831 Southwest Park Row here in Sherwood. We are located at the front of the house. We are just off to the right of the front door. That's as you face the house from the street. That's how I describe everything. So you've got a nifty little clean out under a cover plate here. There's two of them. That one's the one that's been removed. The one closest to your door appears to be your storm system. The one that's over here further away from the door looks like it's your sewer line. And I can tell just by looking into it, there's a little bit of a grease film in the flow line. Anyway, and on a quick note, I don't know with certainty, as the home inspector would be able to clue you in better. When I first opened the clean out closest to the door there was a pretty good, it sounded like a lot of water was shooting through it. It kind of had the sound like a sump pump might be in the crawl space. So anyway, I just wanted you to be aware, there may be a sump pump down there. On a day that has this much rain blasting through the storm mains out in the street, sometimes you can get a sound echoing off of that sounds very similar to it. So it's not something I can confirm with certainty because the clean out is a directional style. I can't actually see the flow line. So anyway, we're checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We're dropping into a 3-inch clean out right now, ABS pipe. Big old blast of water down the pipe right now. And I did zero the foot counter out at the base of the clean out. Now you can see my camera is scraping some grease off the pipe bottom. Just swapped over there to 3034 PVC pipe. And you've got some schmaltz there at the top of the sewer line. So right now my camera is right side up as it should. Flow line's got some grease. The top of the pipe has got some fairly thick buildup attached to it. So that kind of has the appearance that the main lateral may have backed up at some point. And or it can be an indicator of just a backup in general. But when you get the deposits that lead all the way out to the main like this, that's often an indicator that at some point in the past, the city's main, which is this right here, overloaded and backed up the sewer line. So this is a line I am going to recommend cleaning on. You've got a reasonably thick layer of grease built up throughout the pipe. And the stuff that's at the top of the sewer line there really is fairly meaningless as it really, like just build-up wise, that stuff will have no bearing on functionality. The only reason it gets me any concerned at all is could it be concealing anything underneath it? Sometimes you will get, damage to the top of the pipe, for instance. It can let dirt come through the sewer line. You can see how there's a difference in coloration. Top of the pipe, the staining is much darker, where in the flow line that looks very much like grease. So either way, I'm going to recommend you clean the line. It would be worthwhile to do here. That grease buildup just makes it more likely that blockages can occur. It doesn't guarantee it, but it creates for a sticky layer that debris can get hung up on, especially when debris comes to a stop. It can adhere to it, and that's where you get your potential for buildup to occur. It's especially meaningful when you have little kids in the house that are still learning how to fold toilet paper, that are flushing big balls of toilet paper down the line. So it's a good maintenance item, and it's to prevent it from building up is just merely a living habit. If you're being careful to wipe your pans out or scrape them out, pour them into a jar, one of those options, you can mitigate the buildup almost entirely. So anyway, we're going to go locate. We're at the main here. We're just sitting just prior to it, about 52 feet to the main, then we'll pull back here in just a moment. Alrighty, so the line here essentially does a dead straight shot to the main lateral of the street. If it cuts under any driveway at all, it might be the very last little tip where the driveway kind of curves a little bit. Otherwise, when I turn around and stare back at the house from that locate there, I'm essentially looking straight back at the clean out. So you can see what you have there, that kind of chunky stuff in the flow line. Some of that's grease, some of that is toilet paper. And so that's kind of the concern, is it causes paper products to get hung up in the line. Like that, for instance, which we don't want to have happen. It's especially problematic when improper stuff does go down the pipe. So this line could use a cleaning. And granted, some of that, if there was indeed a main lateral backup in the past, some of that buildup there is probably related to that. So I would just recommend cleaning. When you get staining like that at the top of the pipe, especially when it's dark in color, part of it is just, it makes me a little nervous. You could have something at the top of the sewer line allowing, the lines exposed to the ground, but the way that stuff is peeling off there in layers is very indicative of a backup from a main, where you get a slurry of sewage and dissolved paper, very much like how it looks at a paper mill. When the pulp comes off the rollers, it looks just like that. So from what I can tell here, all the pipe looks like it's intact. There's no obvious underlying signs to anything there that makes me think the pipe is obviously damaged on top. I would just like to see this line cleaned for the sake of flow and functionality to help mitigate blockages. Otherwise, structurally here thus far, very nice looking sewer line. It's graded very nicely. There was a little bit of standing water coming back through the PVC, but I believe most of that is related to the fact that my camera is scraping that gunk loose, which is sloughing it off into the flow line and allowing the water to stand there momentarily until it moves on its way. All right, we are just about back to the clean out here. We're going to flip around for just a second. All right, and this is the vertical dive here. We're going to go up a hill. This right here is where the line dives down to leave the crawl space. So anyway, nice looking sewer line from a structural standpoint. Again, the standing water we had out there in the PVC looks like it's all related to just simply there being debris that sloughed into the flow line. It was not originally there until the camera went through and busted it loose. So recommend a Hydrojet to clean the sewer line. I recommend a rescope afterwards to check the work, just to show that it was done. Give it one more good look over, but realistically, from what I can see here, all the pipe looks like it's intact. That is kind of hallmark look of a main lateral backup. City mains back up more frequently than you can believe. Amount of volume they handle, it's not terribly surprising. So once that's all out of there, you'll have a nice, clean, spiffy sewer line. As the line currently sits, it is a functioning sewer line. That grease and debris there does make it more likely that blockages can occur. So that's why I'd like to get it out of there.